Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Roll the Dice with Dave. I'm your host, Dave Rivera, and I hope everybody is having a great Tuesday. Before we get started, I would like to invite those of you that end up tuning in on Facebook or YouTube to go ahead and share this video. Go ahead and like Roll the Dice with Dave, found on Facebook and YouTube, and go ahead and subscribe so you are able to get up to the date information. Before I begin, tonight, I do want to send out thoughts and prayers to those in Louisiana and the surrounding areas who were hit by that devastating hurricane. Also, again, want to send out thoughts and prayers to the 13 servicemen and women who lost their lives serving the U.S. in Afghanistan. Their families are going through a hard time right now. We have to remember that that's somebody's son, daughter, husband, father. That those are our people, and we need to send out our thoughts and prayers to everybody that may have lost a loved one, as well as those that lost their lives helping the United States. So, as we get into tonight's show, I'm really excited for tonight's guest. It's Let me go ahead and bring her on now. Juliette, how are you doing this evening?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. First, I want to say thank you so much for joining me tonight. I was really excited when I sent you that email and you replied. And you said,
Aw,
yes, I would like to be on the show. It really made me very excited because, I had checked out your profile, checked out your page. And one of the things that I try to promote with this show is let's be the change we want to see in this world. And
right,
there were so
right.
many things about you that just represent being a positive aspect in life. So thank you so much for joining
Thank
me this
you.
evening.
Thank you for
Um,
having me.
oh no, you're welcome. You're very welcome. So I want you to go ahead and just take as much time as you'd like and just tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Juliette Nelson?
Juliette Nelson is a very complex individual, not complicated, but complex. I've learned to fix my words with that. I am an educator, a learner. I am an entrepreneur. Also, just a person of impact, a person of purpose. And I guess that's it. I'm a daughter. I'm a cousin. I'm a friend. And every day I waking up. I don't wake up waking up. I wake up because I'm up after I wake up. But just in being wanting to be intentional about being kind, being compassionate, being gracious, showing love to myself and showing love to others. And that's me just in a that's the short version. I guess the medium short version would be I do own four companies.
Only four,
Junuri,
right?
four. Right. JUNURI Publishing, Nuri Lens, and Voisin. By day, I am a diversity and inclusion specialist. What else? I said I was an entrepreneur, and I'm a few months away from being a doctor, y'all. I'm finishing up my dissertation for my PhD, and I'm so excited.
Congratulations. That is such a
Thank you.
threshold. Hearing you say that takes me back to 2004 when I finished my PhD.
How was
And that's one of
that?
those things. I think that whenever anybody gets their PhD and officially becomes doctor, whatever, it's such a defining moment. And I always get excited when I hear somebody's doing it. It takes me back to it's a very difficult time in somebody's life going through that process,
Mhm.
right? But it's such a rewarding experience,
Yeah.
and you then become part of a very unique group of individuals who have earned their PhD.
Yeah.
It's just such a fun thing. So congratulations to you. And I have to say this. So I'm going to say, I went through going through my PhD, and I was only really worried about
Right.
being an educator and doing my PhD. To hear you doing all of that other stuff and the PhD cherry on top of that Sunday. That's an amazing accomplishment. That's just a testament to who
Thank
you are
you.
as an individual. That is great to
Thank
hear.
you. Thank you.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
if let me ask you this real quick, what is specifically your PhD going to be in again? Can't remember if you said it or not.
My PhD is going to be in industrial and organizational psychology, and that basically looks at workplace psychology. If you are Caribbean and you listen to this, I am not a medical doctor, and I am not a clinical therapist. That is not what I'm in school for. I know my Caribbean, my Haitian Caribbean family, when they hear me say doctor, they're like, oh, when I'm sick, I'm gonna call you. Or when I tell them psychology, they're like, if I have depression, I'm not going to anyone. You are my therapist. And I'm like, if you have depression, call a therapist. I am not a licensed therapist, but yes, we apply. Basically, it applies psychology to the workplace. So I guess my way of describing it is really understanding people's behaviors and attitudes and needs in the workplace, and then creating a safe environment that they can function in. Workplace, group settings, organizational settings, team settings, and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm studying. And I mean, it's taught me a lot about myself. You are right. It's a very trying period of time. I think I've pushed myself a lot, but I've really learned a lot, especially being in a psychology program, learning how to be kind to myself, learning how to advocate for myself as well, and really learning to take care of myself so that I can be a voice for those who can't speak up for themselves. So, yeah, that's what I'm
You did
studying.
touch on something that I really like what you said, learning to advocate for yourself. I think a lot more people are starting to realize that if they don't advocate for themselves, nobody else is going to advocate for them, especially over the last 18 months. The mental well-being has become so much more important. And one of my, I think, favorite athletes of all time, Simone Biles, actually showed us how important that was for
Right,
doing that. Because I remember when I
right,
heard the
right, right,
news, I thought, good for her. Right. I thought
right.
good for her. Um,
I was very
because
happy
really,
when I saw that.
yeah, because really she's a, there were a lot of my buddies were like, oh man, but that's what competition's all about. I was like, to be honest, she's the only one who knows what it is to do what she's doing.
Right,
Where they told you you're too good, so we're going to take away points or not let you do these things.
right,
She's
right,
the
right.
only one to truly understand that on that landscape. So when she took a step back, I thought it was great. But then not only did she take a step back, but she still found it in herself to cheer on her teammates, to help uplift
Genuinely.
them.
Genuinely
Yeah.
and
So
sincerely, I thought that was extremely heartwarming. I mean, also even Naomi Osaka, same thing. She was a boss about it. She was like, I'm not
mhm.
doing these interviews, and I know you got a penalty. I'm gonna pay it. I have the money.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I don't need y'all. Y'all need me.
That's
But
right.
really,
That's
I
right.
think especially at their age, you have, I think it might be like Generation Z, but with that much pressure, right? When I was their age, 21, or how, I don't know how old Simone is, but I think Naomi, she's like maybe 21, 22.
I think Simone just turned 24, which is
Right. But
still
but even at
that's
that age,
baby.
you
That's a
don't,
baby.
right.
Yeah.
You don't have that. I mean, I didn't. There are people who have families, they're married, they're raising kids or whatever, but still, you don't have that weight of the world on your shoulders. Weight of the world on your shoulders might feel, stress at work, stress at school, stress from family, but to have, like, not even everyone around the United States, but to have people around the world, having these
Mhm.
expectations of how you're going to perform, and mentally you can't deliver. I think it's so big of those two, especially with Simone at the Olympics. Like, she got there and she was like, nope, nope.
Yeah.
It was a yes when I left the airport, when the plane took off, when it landed. But now that I'm here, no, it's a no for me. And she,
Well, and the
again,
crazy,
sincerely and genuinely cheered her teammates on.
yeah, because she said she also had that revelation like mid flip, right? So I can't even imagine being mid flip and then having that revelation. But
And be like,
um,
no, it's a
yeah,
no,
right,
right?
yeah. So I want to move into our next little segment because one of the things when I read your bio on your webpage and all this stuff, you mentioned that you are a big eyewear enthusiast. And I just thought that was a really cool thing that you had mentioned that. So I wanted to feature that in the review where I'll talk a little bit about something that's come across my purview recently, that I just think is cool or something like that. But talk to me a little bit about this eyewear collection, and if you were going to recommend eyewear to somebody, what is maybe your favorite eyewear that you have? What brand or who do you wear? Shape? Tell me a little bit about this.
So I don't know if you're just teasing for me to, like,
No,
just
I
say
am dead
that my
serious. No,
favorite my favorite
I am dead
eyewear collection
serious.
is my own. Okay.
Okay.
I so so yes, I lived in South Korea for a year, And South Korea was the place where I really, it was like the redefinition of Juliet. And that's where I found my purpose. My, God bless their hearts, my Haitian parents, who I love so much, they thought their daughter was going to law school. And partway through, I was like, "Yeah, parents, this is not working. We're not going to law school." Me, myself, and I, as a collective unit, said that it's a no. And in Haitian culture, it's either you're a nurse, you're an engineer, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer. Otherwise, you're nothing. Everything else doesn't count. So I remember telling them that, but I remember praying a prayer and saying, "God, I want you to use me to touch people of different backgrounds, of different cultures, and so on and so forth." Prior to leaving South Korea, my pastor gave me the name JUNURI, right? First name
Nanuri.
Nuri, last name Na. Yes, first name Nuri, last name Na. And that Nanuri comes from the Korean verb nanuda, which means to share. And he commissioned me to share my gift wherever I go. And so another thing to mention is while living in South Korea, I found that I could buy eyewear for cheap, like $20, $30, including the eye exam. So I was like, what's not going to happen
Oh,
is me go to the United States to have to pay $500 for a pair of frames. I'm going to stock up.
I was
So
about to say because I got 4 kids, right? So the eyewear, and then the kids always breaking glasses, and yeah. So to hear that, man, that would make me excited to be able to get a pair of
right.
glasses for like $30.
Right. So when I came back to the United States, I came with a nice little collection. I think by that time I maybe had like 5 to 10. I would purchase my glasses from Asia, and then I would fill the prescription here. And a couple of years after that, I ended up founding JUNURI. And so for, alluding back to my Korean name, JUNURI is a combination of Juliet and Nuri, right? And that is very
I lost
much
activity with
around
you
my
for just a
life's
second.
purpose
There
to
you go.
share my lens, right? Sharing my gift with forth. Can you hear me? Can
Now
you hear
I
me?
got you back. Yeah, I got you good. I think we were able to hear
Am I
you. Just
back?
kind of froze up a little bit.
Awesome.
Yes, you're good. You're good. So
Okay, good, good,
that's
good.
that's
So
a great
basically,
story. No,
yes.
that's
So
an awesome
Junuri,
story.
right. So what happened is when I founded Junuri, there's power in your words. And I remember praying another prayer saying, "God, the next pair of glasses I buy is one for me to design." I was joking. I was absolutely joking. I swear to you, I was joking. And I think like a year later, I was purchasing a pair of glasses for someone who's a gamer. And for those who are avid, video game players, that they have glasses that have like a little tint, and that's the blue light protection. Students and professionals
Okay.
now, why not come out with an eyewear collection? You're losing me again. Am I good? Am I back?
No, I'm good.
Okay, awesome. So I
Gotcha.
said, why not come out with, an eyewear collection with blue light blocking lenses that can provide value to students, to professionals. And this was pre-COVID. Students and professionals, people who work in the office having to sit in front of a computer, people who work at the hospital, at the lab, having to look at x-rays and so on and so forth. Students who, they had the tablet, they had the TV and so on and so forth. And then that kind of just started it. And then eventually I had this idea to say, and I don't even know where it came from, but I was like, I don't want my glasses to look like everybody else's. I'm going to come out with some wooden frames. And that's what I did. So this is
Nice.
actually this is the bestseller. And these are the Montego Bays.
The
This
Montego Bay. Oh, that's where I
Montego
took my
Bay, and
honeymoon with my
each
wife, right?
pair is named right. So basically, yeah. So basically, that's what I did. Everything, all of the frames they're fully wood or they're mostly wood.
Okay.
And even looking up the meaning of wood represents knowledge, it represents growth, it represents wisdom. It's like a tree, right? That's deeply rooted and it evolves. And in the same sense, human beings have the opportunity to grow, to evolve, right? With the wisdom and everything that they gain. And so the mantra became, see through the lens of your purpose. And I'm Christian. So there's a Bible verse that, really, I guess it kind of carried me through and reminded me of my purpose and my goals. And it says, write the vision, make it plain, so that others who see it can run with it. And it also says, even if the vision seems far away, don't be discouraged because it will happen at an appointed time. And I said that it's such an amazing message. Whether you're religious or not, hey, you could worship a tree for all I care, but it just reminds you that when you have a goal and you have a vision, you work toward it. And the beautiful thing about purpose is no one can take it away from you, right? When you're speaking potential, that's something that's man given, right? Your boss can say, hey, you have the potential to be a supervisor, but potential to be a manager, but when it comes to your purpose, no one can take that away from you, right? You can be more than a manager, you can be more than a supervisor, hey, you can be a CEO, but all that being said, this eyewear collection, it represents that purpose. When you put on these frames, you have these blue light blockers on these beautiful wooden frames. It allows you to express yourself, express your personality, but also it's a reminder that, as you press towards your goals, you stay the course. You're going to have some rough days, but there are also some good days. And you just have to be encouraged that it'll be worth it in the end. And ironically, Nuri lens means sharing the lens. Nuri means to share, and then you have the lens. So it all comes in together. But yes, this is one of the best sellers. They're all named after places that represent, my life's journey as well as my identity and that of my friends. We have the Montego Bays, named after Montego Bay, Jamaica. We have 1804, which is the year Haiti became the first independent Black republic in the Caribbean. We have New Designs, Port of Spain, named after Port of Spain, Trinidad. Cairo, named after Cairo. We have New York, because I'm from New York. We have a pair of New York frames. So
Hey, you
it's
gotta
just a nice
represent. That's right, the
diverse.
NYC,
Right.
baby.
Right. So see, I'm from upstate New York. Y'all don't like claiming us, but we count.
Oh, no, no,
See that? You're like, oh man. And
man,
I'm
no,
like,
I'm
my
just,
parents
but
don't even live like more than an hour and a half away from New York. This is New York City and this is upstate New York. We're not even in
you
Buffalo,
know,
but y'all don't
that
claim
is
us.
so true. That is so true, man. If you live out of the five boroughs, that's it. That's it. We don't even
You
count it.
don't
That's
you
true.
you know it's wild. I heard that y'all don't even, and I realized that you don't even claim Westchester and Yonkers. That is
That's
so
so
sad.
funny.
And we don't claim them. They're not upstate. We don't want them.
That is too funny.
That is
Yeah,
so sad.
that's
Where's the
so true.
inclusion
That is so
there?
true.
But
Yeah.
all to say, yeah, it represents culture, it represents growth. And yes, this is one of the best sellers of the collection. So,
I will say this though, man. You are in just the 10 minutes or so that we've been talking, you are so inspirational. New York City
oh,
needs to
thank
go ahead and
you.
claim you. New York City needs to go ahead and claim
My
you.
friends
That's
from the Bronx, they don't like to claim me. They're like, yeah, you. But you know what? When you put us behind wheel, right, and you make us all of us New York drivers, no matter how country or not you are, it
yeah.
is what it is.
So
We're gonna drive all the same.
that's true. They always blame bad driving and they say, "Oh man, that's got to be a New Yorker." But I tell
No,
you
we're the
what,
best
man.
drivers. We are
Oh man,
defensive
I
drivers. We
love that
defend
story. I
ourselves
hope you don't
on the road.
mind. I may actually edit that little piece and just show it to my strategic management class one of these days.
Sure.
As far as inspiration, right? I mean
Oh,
that
thank
was
you.
so inspirational, and the jewels you just dropped on us in the first 15 minutes. I can't wait to talk a little more. So I want to go ahead and go into the next segment. Right? I don't even want to talk about anything me. I'm just so excited to be listening to what you have to say because this is
Oh,
unbelievable, next level stuff. So HTM highlights. I am the director of hospitality and tourism at Flagler College.
okay.
I've been in the hospitality and tourism industry for a long time. I'm also the department chair for business administration. But being in St. Augustine, hospitality and tourism is a big part of what we're about in Florida. So, one of the things that I noticed about you is you are very well traveled. You're very well traveled. So, I just want to get your take on when was the last time you traveled and what are you looking forward to doing as far as your next travels?
The last time I traveled, was it Madrid? I need to ask my parents. It was no, it was Madrid. It was. So I'm the only child, and some of y'all might judge me because I went on vacation with my parents. They ain't got nobody else they're going with. It's only one of me. Okay. So
No, I
we
think
go
that's
on.
awesome.
It
If I had
is.
a choice, I'd vacation. I mean, now I have my wife and my 4 kids, and we vacate. But
Right.
vacationing with my parents is such an
It's
important
amazing.
part of who we are as a family. So,
And you know what's interesting is because when I lived in South Korea, uh, 2013. And so prior to 2013, I think it was a few years since I'd traveled with them. And when I was a kid, my parents traveled with me everywhere. I mean, my grandmother side of the family, my maternal side of the family, they live in St. Martin. So I would go year after year. Interestingly enough, when we did Puerto Rico, my grandmother was actually a merchant in Viejo San Juan. And
that's
I don't know if you
crazy.
know where the Haitian Galleria is in Viejo San Juan, but that was
Yeah,
my grandmother's spot. That was my
that's
grandmother's
crazy.
spot. Yeah. So we traveled a couple of places. Ironically, when I went to Korea, my parents waited till I was out of the house for them to start going to Colombia and Venezuela and all these beautiful places without me. Yeah, we ended up doing Paris, and then I think 2019 we did Madrid, and it was absolutely amazing. And in terms of where I would like to travel next, I would like to travel. I would love to travel around Africa, especially West Africa.
Hmm.
I'm very interested to learn where my ancestors are from. And when I say ancestors, I'm not talking Haiti, but I'm talking like where were people taken from and bought
Hmm.
to Hispaniola. So that's really where I would love to travel to. Ghana, Benin. Those were some of the suggestions of where um, Africans were taken from and bought to Hispaniola. But I'm very interested in seeing if there are any, because they say there are similarities in the foods we eat, in the language, in Haitian Creole. There are small innuendos. So that's where I would really love to travel to. But yeah, and I would like to travel to Dominican Republic as well. I would like
The
to see
DR,
what it's
yeah.
like on the other side of the island. Like, what are y'all doing? Hey, neighbors.
I was about to say, yeah, because you guys are neighbors. You guys are neighbors, next
Yeah,
door
and I
neighbors.
would.
Yeah.
It's a lot of places I want to go. I do want to go to Haiti. I haven't been to Haiti. I hate to say this, but I haven't been to Haiti since I was 2. And every time it was time for me to go and visit, something always happened
Will
dramatically.
come up.
So
Hmm.
yeah, but I that is one place I absolutely do want to visit as well, Haiti.
Man,
Yeah.
that is so cool. And just thinking about life in general, um,
Yeah.
you being in like you're from New York, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
a New Yorker, born and raised, and I'm Puerto Rican, right? So
Hey,
there's it's crazy how the universe has a way of just kind of bringing some people
together.
together. See, I knew there was something special about you. As soon as I saw your
I'm telling
profile,
you,
and
we
I was like, I got to
family.
reach out to
We
Julie. I
family.
was like, I got to reach out, got to reach out. So,
My roommate
um,
actually, she's Puerto Riqueña, and she my roommate from South Korea. And it was interesting because of course we were in Korea to teach English,
English.
but our students picked up slight innuendos based on our mother home tongue. So there were expressions I would say in Creole when I got frustrated. Small little things like a student makes me frustrated and I suck my teeth, ay ay ay, or my a student talks back to my roommate and she's like, "Como que?" and responds whatever they say. But it's crazy because even after we left, the students continued saying that. And the teachers that were left behind, like, where did our students learn all of this Spanish and Haitian Creole? And we're looking around like, uh,
Uh,
yeah,
oh,
but
those
yeah,
those
we're
I tell you
family.
what, those stories are awesome, man. Oh man, that's
Yeah.
great stories, very inspirational. Thank you for sharing so much of yourself. I tell you what, this is great. I can just sit and listen to you talk nonstop.
Oh,
So, the next little piece is called the "In Your Opinion."
okay.
Looking at a lot of just different things that are going on, and one of the things I just want to get is, in your opinion, how do you feel about the state of the world right now? I know that's a big question, right? There's so much going on, but in
Do
your
you want
opinion, what is
which
your feeling on the
how
state of the
which
world?
level of honesty do you want? You want the political
I want you to
version
be. I
or
mean, you've been so real so far. I want you to be as real as you want to be.
I think it's trash. I
So
think I
explain
think it's a
like
little
where's the
it's here's I think there is hope, but I think it's just there is so much going on and it's so I do believe there's hope for humanity. That's something I always believe in. I think there's absolute hope for humanity. But I think the people who like toxify it, it's just bad. It's just bad. I I think my challenge is there's so much of a focus on all of this negative, and it
Mhm.
takes away from just the fact that we're humans. And I just think that's so, I think it's trash. That just that mentality, right? The lack of humanity that we strip away from each other, right? Um, the earthquake happened in Haiti. And of course, we've seen the situation in Afghanistan. We see what's
Mhm.
going on in Louisiana.
Yeah.
You sit on Facebook, you go on Twitter, and people are harsh. There are all of the suggestions that, oh well, Haiti is cursed, right? Afghanistan, they brought it on themselves. You have Louisiana. Why would you live there if you know it's in the way of a hurricane? Or why didn't you leave or evacuate before the hurricane? When some people they don't have the means to
Yeah, I was
evacuate,
just talking about that today at work with somebody
right?
because that was the comment they made, and I don't think they were coming from a place of negativity. I know
Right.
this person
But
for,
some
but they
people
said,
do
"Man,
come
I
from a
don't."
place of
Yeah,
negativity.
and but when he said it, I felt compelled to say something because it was like, "Man, I don't
Right.
understand why people just didn't get out." And I was like, "Well,
Right.
there are a lot of people that rely on public transportation to get to and from work. They don't
Right.
have a car to just hop in a car and go."
Some of them don't
I
even have the money. Some people are walking.
yeah,
It's bus 11.
yeah. So
So I
when I
think
said that, he stopped a second. Was like, "Oh, I never really thought about that."
and that's nice that he did that. Because not everybody does that.
That's
I
true.
think
Yeah.
some people just want to, beat their chests. I have mentioned this, everyone lives their lives based on their lens of privilege, their perception of their privilege versus their disprivilege, right?
Hmm.
Let's look at politics, for example. With our previous president, our dearest President Trump, you had, yeah, and I won't even use him. For example, Hillary, when Hillary ran, right? Hillary Clinton, there were people who voted for Trump. They were not voting for Hillary. And it wasn't because those emails. When you're looking at Haitians, the Clintons don't have the best reputation in Haiti, right? Because we perceive them as that couple as two individuals who kind of exploited the resources there, but didn't really put
Hmm.
it back into the people who needed it the most. And then you have Trump. Some people gained their citizenship under his presidency. Some, when you have Hispanic, Latino, you have Caribbean people. We hustle. We probably have our small little bodega, we have our little restaurant, and so on and so forth. And maybe they got a PPP loan, maybe they got an EIDL loan, and that's what allowed them to stay afloat
Stay
during
afloat.
COVID.
Hmm.
And so they can care less what he says, right? But their perception of that privilege to receive that versus the disprivilege, they might say, okay, yes, he says these things, or I'm minority, or I'm a person of color, whatever it is. However, I still enjoy these privileges, and so therefore I'm going to vote for him.
Hmm.
All to say, and the same thing with Democrats, right? There are some very rich celebrities who are economically Republican, and we don't realize that, right? So when they encourage or they endorse Democratic candidates, it's not that they're helping their pockets. I've been saying this whole time since our new president came in, I would be fine with making $399,999. You can keep that extra dollar because you're not about to tax me for that
Sex
400,000.
me at that higher.
You know what I mean? But all to say, this is, I'm just using politics as an example, but that's really how we look at life, right? Our perceptions are really shaped by how we view our own privilege versus our own disprivilege. When we can
Hmm.
be honest with ourselves and say, wow, I do have this level of privilege, but I look at my neighbor and they don't have it. then you're able to offer a little bit more compassion. You're able to offer a little bit more understanding. And I think the issue with just the state of this world is that there's not enough of it, right? There's really not enough of it. We do get the hang of it from time to time, right?
Hmm.
We do get the hang of it. The beginning of COVID was a perfect example. When you look
Yeah.
at, when the Twin Towers were attacked, you have people who are carrying each other, running back into buildings to help each other, things like that. So it's not to say there is no hope for humanity, but when I look at it, just the level of inconsideration and the lack of compassion for people
Hmm.
when you've never walked a day in their shoes. And I think we also need to understand all of our blood runs red. The fact that my ancestors were enslaved, that doesn't make me less than a person, or our ancestors were enslaved. That doesn't make us less than a person than someone whose ancestors enslaved someone, right? The fact that you're a man and I'm a woman, it doesn't make me less than a person. And unfortunately, we like to use our privilege and our disprivilege, and we don't like to really be honest with ourselves. And so when we come face to face with these honesties, we don't want to take accountability for them, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really how I feel about the state of the world. I just wish that there were just a little bit more understanding, you know and it doesn't mean that you're vilifying yourself. It doesn't mean you're humiliating yourself. It just means you're listening and you're seeking to see someone else's point of view. And when you can, hear someone who's trying to escape Afghanistan, some people saying, why don't they just stay and make
Make
the
yeah.
situation better? What? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? If there's a
Yeah.
fire in your house, are you going to try to stay and put it out, or are you going to run out? You know what I mean? So all to say, I think there are just opportunities for us to listen, to be willing to understand without always getting offended as to why our privilege isn't our fault. And when we're able to look at things from somebody else's lens, I think it allows us to offer a little bit more compassion for one another, a little bit more care. And yeah, that's kind of the way I see the state of the world.
No, thank you so much. So when does Juliette Nelson announce her candidacy run for president? When is that going to happen?
Okay, so
Because
let me tell you this real quick.
you
I can't
you
be president. Let me
you
tell you why I can't be president. Because if I become president, first of all, we are changing all the menus at the White House and these schools. Okay, these kids are having rice and beans. Okay, veggies. We are having Haitian cuisine. It's gonna be Haitian. It's gonna be Puerto Rican. It's gonna be
hey, there's
Dominican.
nothing wrong with
It's
that.
gonna be
Nothing
soul
wrong with
food. You know what I mean? The food's gonna have a
that.
little bit of seasoning. No shade, but it's gonna have some
No.
seasoning. It's gonna have some seasoning. It's gonna have some
But you know what?
seasoning. But
They the
I'm
food. If the food is better and it's good, people will be happy. Full bellies with good food, and
right.
it,
I'm
that may
I'm
be
just
the
saying, y'all
the
don't
ticket
want
right
me. Yeah, y'all don't want me as president. Natural hair products, 50% off. We're marking them down. That is my executive order. That's like the first thing. With all the things
there.
going on in the world, I'm coming in with an executive order to mark down hair care products.
Well,
No,
you need to mark down everything. Everything is so expensive right now,
right,
as far
right.
as just care, self care products. Period. So
Yeah,
expensive.
yeah.
Everything is
But I
crazy.
think that's one thing I would really, I would, if I were president, honestly, I would want to make, therapy. Thank you, Doris. You'll vote for me. uh,
Yeah, that's my mom. That's my mom. So my mom tuned in.
I,
Yeah,
yeah,
my
but
mom
no,
is definitely feeling you. Yeah.
I would, and I would really want, for example, therapy. I would love to have more accessible healthcare. I would want to put in more resources into breaking stigmas, right? I would want more resources. I would make English, Spanish, French, and Mandarin at the least official languages. In addition to others, I would want a celebration and a cultural acceptance that this is not solely, this is not just one group of people here anymore. You know what I mean? It's all of us. And that's what I would do for president, but I probably wouldn't do it in the right order. People would get some reparations. Okay, I'm black, y'all, and I'm a woman. I'm Caribbean. We will get some reparations. Native Americans, we pulling them out the reservations. What y'all want? Let me know what you want. You know what I mean? You have a
Yeah.
seat at the table. Matter of fact, just kick some people off tables and replace them with the Native Americans. We find tables for everybody else. but we want to make sure. But for me, that's really it. I would really focus on just giving people a voice who deserve a voice. Everybody deserves a voice. But yeah, I think. But again, I probably wouldn't do it in the right order. I would start with the food and the sales, and I don't know if that's the right way to go.
Actually, that
So
you know what, that might be the right way to do it because they'll be too busy eating, they won't be able to say anything, right, to
right,
stop. So that
right.
was actually one of the tricks. After I got my PhD and started guiding PhD students, I said make sure you bring good snacks for your committee. I said because what's going to happen is your committee will start snacking, and when it's good snacks, they're eating the snacks and they're listening to what's being said,
And it's good
but
because
they
it's
can't
nice
say
food.
anything, right? Because they got and that,
I
there
love
you
it.
go. Next thing you know, you got your PhD. You're all wrapped up, right?
Right. They
So
calling you an okay
food,
doctor. Thank you for dinner.
yeah, food is the way. Food is the way. So, oh man, I tell you what, thank you so much for that. So this next little segment, I'm calling a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but just
Okay.
because there are a few things I wanted to cover because I just found your bio. There were so many little tidbits of stuff that I just found super interesting.
Okay.
So I put a little list. The first thing, so you talk about your Haitian background, and I've gotten a little taste of it. What were some other things that you really enjoyed about life, considering the fact that you were in a Haitian family?
Um, I honestly, one thing they say about Haitians is we're resilient, right? We're gonna make something out of nothing, always. And I think the one thing I love just about growing up in a Haitian household is that my parents didn't have as much, but I felt like I was the richest kid in the world. And I was aware of, like, it wasn't, we didn't live in a mansion or anything, but I had my parents, I had my cousins, Black Caribbean culture. Once you meet someone for like the second, third time, y'all are cousins, y'all are sisters. You know what I mean? You family. But that's really it. I grew up with, my church family. I grew up with, and I felt like the richest person in the world, the richest kid in the world. And, that's what it is. We focus on family, we focus on the community. We don't get right all the time. It's not that we're perfect, but I think that's really what I appreciated. I think another thing is, my father's a history teacher. My father speaks, I think he speaks seven. I speak six, including English, beginner to fluent. So I think my parents really instilled this love for learning. And I think that also speaks to just the hard work of Haitian people. My parents always instilled hard work. I would go to my parents when I took on a task that was I knew was like wild. For example, like taking
Hmm.
24 credits in undergrad. My father would say, people will say you're crazy. People say you're
That
crazy.
is
I
crazy.
actually think
Yeah,
you are. But he's like, you'll do it. You'll do it. It's done. It's done. And
man,
he's
that's
like,
nuts.
you've got God by your side, you have your faith, and you have your grit, and it's gonna be done.
Man,
And
I
my
tell you,
father,
that's
yeah, my father hasn't. Speaking of Haitians loving kids who are nurses, doctors, lawyers, and engineers, my father has only called me doctor, president, and lawyer since I was a kid. You could not tell me anything less than that. I remember getting denied an interview for a manager position, and the lady said, "You have potential." And I called my father. I said, "My daddy only called me lawyer, doctor, and president. Can't nobody tell me I'm gonna be a little manager." He was like, "You're right. You're right.
oh man, but
Right.
hearing you describe your what you loved about being Haitian and growing up, it reminds me of a lot of what I remember hearing growing up. I grew up in New York City. We grew up in the projects,
Right.
but we never felt poor. Right, we never felt like we didn't have. My parents always gave us everything that we
Right.
needed to survive. But the most important thing my parents always gave us was the love and support, even when we stumbled. Right, even when
Hmm.
there was a trip and fall, they were there to kind of help us through it. Extended family, right? So the family, when you look at the pictures and there's all the cousins and you're hanging out at everybody's
Hmm.
house and doing all that kind of stuff, that's one of those feel good moments hearing you say that. So thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
that aspect. But I want to touch into another part. Earlier, you had mentioned being Christian and your spirituality being an important part of your life. Can you talk a little bit about your spiritual development and your growth? How did that all come about?
Wow. I mean, that's been a journey, I will tell you. Of course, growing up, I grew up Seventh Day Adventist. Um, Shout out to Sinai French and RPC. But yeah, I grew up Seventh Day Adventist. I was born and raised in the church. I got baptized when I was a kid. Not a kid. I got baptized like 13. And they do say, when you make decisions like that, you have to be ready for the ups and downs that come, right? And of course, religion does. I think religion helps a lot with like building community and building discipline. But spirituality, that's a different beast. That's a real different beast. And I think going into my adult life, I realized that it was my spirituality that would help carry me over through a lot of challenging times. And I think just looking at myself as a Christian, I wanted to represent, I mean, they speak about faith, right?
Hmm.
And, no matter what your religion is, right? Faith takes, there's a very big part of that where you believe in this higher being, right? That more than likely you never met or whatever the case may be. But what I've learned is on my spiritual walk is, for example, if you see a skincare product, right? And I see that it cleared up your acne in like 3 months. Now, because I saw it work for you, I want to try it for myself. And now I'm going to believe in that this company's product is going to help me, even though I haven't seen the results for myself yet. Right. And I might
Okay.
keep using it, even if, one day I don't see my skin clear up completely, or maybe one day I break out with a pimple, but that's part of the process. Right. And I see faith
Hmm.
the same way, as a Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever it is, when you're shining your light, you can't be a mean person and think that you're going to attract someone to who you are serving, right? So I serve God, right? I can't expect that someone's going to become a Christian if I'm sitting here always feeling like I need to point fingers and I need to judge and I need to send them to hell and all of that. Sometimes it's the love and the compassion, literally, that you give someone that will literally change their life. Say, you know what, if that's how you are, I want to meet that God that you serve. And
Hmm.
for me, I had to make the choice that I did not want to be responsible for someone losing their belief in humanity, in God, in just uh, just the beauty of life and kindness and love. I did not want to be responsible for that because of me treating someone bad. So part of my spiritual walk was also repenting, right? Really having conversations with God and saying, I know some of these toxic behaviors that I've just developed or that I've displayed in the past, and I don't like who that person is. And really saying, I'm sorry. And wherever that person is in the world, I hope that they're able to experience, that sorry from me, whatever it is. But me taking accountability is choosing to be better, right? Choosing to be better and choosing to, again, show compassion. You never know what people are going through.
Hmm.
I had one of my best friends committed suicide almost like 5 years ago. And so, even from that experience, that spiritual journey, grieving and really going through that process was also like, sometimes you just gotta be kind. It's really that simple. It doesn't hurt to be kind. Someone might be different from you. That doesn't make them less human than you are. You might not believe in the same things, right? I think with religion, we get so passionate about what
Hmm.
we believe in. And it's like we need to force people to believe in what we believe in. I think with that radicalism comes with us becoming mean, right? Oh, you're not good enough because you don't believe in what I believe in. Well, I don't want to believe in what you believe in because you're being a mean person. And I don't want to emulate that. So all to say, that's been really my spiritual journey and development. I'm learning day by day. I'm not perfect. I still got a little bit of petty in me. I feel like Jesus was petty too. He flipped some tables over in the Bible. Look it up. He flipped some tables over. The disciples pissed him off. He flipped them over. And he's been petty. He said a couple of things. So, I'm just here serving my father, being
But
like a baby.
everybody's got that pettiness in them, right? Everybody's got a little bit
Oh,
of that,
yeah.
and that's what makes us human. That's what makes us fallible. That's what
Right.
makes us vulnerable, right? We have all of
But
that in
it's
there.
about learning. It's about wanting to learn and wanting to grow and wanting to be better. So yeah.
All right, and kind of as we get into this last little piece of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. One of the things I did notice is, and you had mentioned earlier, your uh, diversity, equity, inclusion culture is a big part of your life. Um, it's a big part of what I do also at in a higher ed. So I just want to get your thoughts on what do you think are the biggest barriers right now to people truly being able to embrace the DEI concepts and life? What do you think really is just getting in the way?
I think people are afraid of the honest conversations that are not comfortable. It's not about you. It's not your birthday. It's that simple, right? If you come to me and you say, "This is my experience," right? With this level of inequity, with this level of disprivilege, or whatever, why do I always feel the need to say, "Oh, well, I didn't get it"? But it's not this is not you don't have the talking stick, right? You don't
Mhm.
have the talking phone. In kindergarten where they gave you like a talking stick,
That's right.
and when you hear an old person at the top. So all to say, I think if people were just okay with not taking things, I don't want to say not taking things personally, because it is personal.
It is, yeah,
If
it
we
does
want to
get
talk
very
about,
personal. Yeah.
right, if we want to talk about the white and the black issue, right? I think there's always this thing like slavery was so long ago. I don't care if it was 1,000 years ago. I don't care if it was biblical ages ago, right? The reality is, as minorities, we are still reaping the impacts of
Hmm.
slavery. And even though, Caucasians or those of European descent, they are not the ones infiltrating it, right? They might not even have the intention of doing that, but unconsciously, that's what you're born into, right? And so when I come to you and I'm saying, this is my experience, right? When I'm telling you, racism does exist, brushing it under the rug is not going to fix it.
Fix
Fixing
it.
the
That's right.
symptoms are not going to fix the root of the problem, right? And so yeah, I think that's one of the biggest barriers. I think the next challenge, um, the next barrier, and I mean this with grace, as a minority myself. I think sometimes because of our experience, we shut off those who are willing to be an ally for us, an ally with us, to advocate for us, and also even understand their perspectives. It doesn't mean it's right, right?
Hmm.
But when you're able to understand the lived experience of a white person, for example, I went to a predominantly white high school, and I had to come to the conclusion and peace with that conclusion that some of these kids ain't never seen a black person in their life. It's just not what they've seen. So if I
Hmm.
come in and I use a certain vernacular or whatever, they might laugh at it because it's foreign to them. It's not saying it's okay, but that's where, if someone is willing to share that experience, be open to hearing it, right? There are some people who say, listen, this is all I've known, but I really want to understand how I can be part of the cause. And I
Hmm.
think, because we're within our culture and so on and so forth, we want to stay in that. And that's what happens when you experience trauma. We experience generational trauma, but that's what happens where you don't know what it's like to come out of that trauma. You only know what the trauma feels like, right? And so
Yeah.
you prefer
Yep.
to stay in it instead of go through the discomfort of coming out of it. So yeah, I think those are the two barriers and the two opportunities. It might not happen collectively around the world, but I think little by little, there are opportunities for that to happen. I know it's happened in my small little circles. I've been able to have conversations with people sometimes,
Hmm.
I've in conversations with white people, I've told them I am not in the headspace to review my traumatic experiences. Not today, not today. And I've told them some Black people, some Hispanics, some people with disabilities, some Native Americans, they may not always be in the headspace. And so there's also a kind of language that you use. Are you in the headspace? Are you okay with sharing what your experience is? And there are other times, I've been able to ask questions. I've been able to have very fruitful conversations. And those have also been healing as well. So I think really everybody needs a safe space to be. But, part of creating that safe space is also understanding that there's some discomfort that comes with that physical therapy, right? Where for you to
Hmm.
get back up again, there's some pain you got to go through. And that's also coming and confronting, the harsh truths of who you are and what allows you certain privileges over others. So
One of the things that you said that I really liked is that sometimes the person just may not be in the right headspace, and that explains a lot. Times sometimes where maybe they're aggressive when it comes
yeah,
to a discussion that's there because they're just not in the right headspace. Thank you so much
yeah.
for sharing your thoughts. I can't believe we've already been talking for about 50 minutes now. This is like blown by. But man, I tell you, I have gotten so much in the last 50 minutes, and you have rejuvenated like this. I got this feeling of just excitement. I may have trouble going to sleep here in a
Oh,
little bit because I have so much excitement just listening to you talk. No, thank you so much for all of that. So as we wrap up tonight, the last segment I have is called the Rant and Rave with Dave, and this is where I just give you an opportunity to give your last final thoughts on anything that you want to share as we wrap up tonight's broadcast.
my last final thoughts. It's simple: love yourself and love others.
I love it.
That's
I
it.
love it. Love yourself and love others. So you got to copyright that, bumper stickers, T-shirts,
Yeah, I
get
should
that
do that.
right, all that stuff.
Good
And
idea.
people get a certain number of eyewear, right? They can get the T-shirt kind of partnered with that,
Right,
coupled with that.
complimentary. Yeah,
Yes.
I like that.
Right. But I do want to say this as kind of my last final thoughts. Juliette, you truly are an amazing soul. You truly
Oh,
are an
thank
amazing
you, thank
soul. This
you.
has been such an inspirational. Uh, I don't even want to say conversation. It's just because it's like beyond just a conversation. You
Right,
have touched me in a way that this is what I was hoping to get out of this. So I started this doing this little broadcast just to get in a good mental headspace when we were in the middle of COVID and all kinds of things
right,
were just bad, not connecting with people. And you're the reason that I did this because to meet and connect with people like you.
right.
I wish we had more people like you in this world. I really do because
Oh,
you
thank
truly are
you.
the change we want to see in the world. And thank you so
Oh,
much for
thank
joining
you.
me this evening.
I'm
I
honored.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
No, you're very welcome.
I
For
appreciate you.
next
And
week,
we family.
yeah, we
Once I'm
are.
a
We are.
doctor, we
Yeah.
got to do research
Well,
together. We have some conversations to have, Doc.
we do. I will say this. I fell in love with you once you said Puerto Rico, right? And you said Puerto Rico, and you actually said it like a Puerto Riqueño. When you
And my
said
father would be
that,
disappointed if I didn't say it properly.
I was like, "There's money right there." She just hit it. So I was all about it. I was all about it. So and then you said Viejo San Juan, right? You didn't say Old San Juan. I know a lot of
No, it's
people
Viejo San Juan.
that they go, oh yeah, I went to Old San Juan. And I was like, yeah, Viejo San Juan. They're like, yeah, Old San Juan. I'm like, yeah, no, it's
No,
Viejo San Juan.
call it
I'm
what
the
it
same.
is. Call it what it
Yes.
is. Yeah,
So I'm gonna put the energy out there because I know you said you wanted to go to West Africa and Ghana and all that. So I'm putting it out in the universe. Hopefully, the next time we get a chance to talk, you're telling me about your trip out there. And again,
absolutely.
thank you so much for your time this evening. I
Thank
truly
you.
appreciate you. Um, Everybody that's tuned in tonight. Next week, I'm going to be talking with just your average husband and wife and child, but we're going to be talking about just different topics going on in the world. They have certain viewpoints, and they reached out, and we're going to have a conversation. We have slightly different opinions on some things. We're going to talk a little bit of vaccine, a little bit of politics, but we're going to do it in a space where we could actually have a conversation and not argue and fight because we're just trying to get a better understanding for the viewpoints of somebody else. So hopefully people can tune in next week and enjoy this conversation. And my mom gave you another shout out. I got to put this up. Great conversation. It
Thanks,
it really
Mom.
was. It really was. So again, thank you so much, Juliette. I hope you have a great evening and a great rest of your week. And thank you again for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.